Welcome to Enrichment Today podcast, hosted by Dr. Amy Christine Blansit. This podcast covers topics to build stability and find tranquility in your life. Join us to discuss topics to improve your financial health, change your limiting beliefs, improve your wellness, and so much more, all to increase your self-sufficiency. If you like this podcast, make sure to follow the Enrichment Today podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and follow the Drew Lewis Foundation on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. You can also check us out on our websites, enrichmenttoday.org and drewlewis.org. Now sit back, relax, and learn to break some crayons with us.
Welcome back to Enrichment Today. I'm excited to have a new guest. We're going to talk about the collaboration that continues to happen with the Drew Lewis Foundation. I am Dr. Amy Blansit. I'm faculty at Missouri State, and I'm the CEO of the Drew Lewis Foundation. Today on the podcast, I have a guest who is the leader of, the guru for, the Single Moms Rock. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Kendal Ford. I am the manager of SingleMomzRock. We are an outreach ministry of Victory Mission. We were at one time our own nonprofit, but now we fall under their umbrella, and I'm very excited to be here.
That happens often with nonprofits, to where something might grow and you either don't have sometimes the skill set or sometimes the capacity as the entrepreneur behind it to say, man, this took a life of its own. And so you'll see sometimes nonprofits do that, to where one nonprofit becomes the umbrella for another, as either they outgrow kind of the original idea of what the dreamer had.
Exactly.
Or sometimes blending those models together just make really good business sense.
Yeah.
So it's great to see those kind of partnerships in the nonprofit world. So one of the reasons that we wanted to talk to SingleMomzRock is that through the Drew Lewis Foundation and our program RISE, Reaching Independence Through Support and Education, we realized that over 80% of our members were female. So they're leaders of their household in one way or another. They want to move towards self-sufficiency, and they're taking that empowerment role in their own hands. Many of them are single parents, but not all of them. But then also across the board, when we look at all of our members, both male or female, many of them are single parents. Yeah. And we have a lot of new things that come into life as single parents, whether it's through divorce or loss or whatever the reason might be. And so we just thought it was really important to kind of talk about the resources and the programs that are available in our community and what those look like. So can you tell us a little bit more about your experiences as a single mom and how that blended well with you taking the helm of SingleMomzRock?
Yes, so I have been a single mom for 11 years. I have an amazing 11-year-old daughter. Hi, Cam. And I became a single mom really young. I was 20 when I had her. And I went through, and we're originally from Baltimore, Maryland. And so I went through this journey of being a young mom in college, and especially coming from Baltimore City, I was just another young black girl having a baby. And so I was a statistic, and that was how I was treated in the system. And then going through things like that are interesting because it could either beat you down, but in my case, it really kind of lit a fire up under me. Because if there's anything about me, I don't want to ever be predictable. And so when I had people be like, your life will never come to anything, you'll just live off of welfare or whatever, I really tried to work hard to show them that they were wrong, and to kind of prove to myself, like, setbacks are only temporary, and I'm setting myself up for a major comeback. And so I've kind of had this huge thing about empowerment in my whole life. And so as I've gotten older and more experience in life, it's been more about bringing people along with me now. And so when I found out about SingleMomzRock, when we moved here and found out about this opportunity, I was super excited for the opportunity to lead this organization and help these moms walk through really hard situations, some of them, but also just help them find empowerment. Because a lot of times in society, they'll tell us that we're victims and that we won't be anything, and we're not victims. Things may have happened that caused us to be single parent households for right now, but I am not a victim, and neither are they. Right. We are women of empowerment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's even times where someone truly is a victim.
Exactly.
Right? I don't want to say that there isn't a time where, male or female, that you weren't victim of that moment.
Exactly.
But the important part is, and this is what SingleMomzRock and this is what the Drew Lewis Foundation really works on, is the victim mentality ends when you become empowered, and you can use a very unfortunate situation to move forward.
Exactly.
Or to allow it to keep you small and where you are in that victim space.
Exactly.
And having community and
Yep.
relationships and people that you can build trust in.
Yep.
People who have your back, people who celebrate with you, to move someone out of that victim mentality, it's one of the best things to experience.
It really is. Yeah. And so that's what we get to do at Single Moms Rock, and I love it. Yeah.
So what are some of the ways that you do that? If I join Single Moms Rock, 'cause I am a single mom, what are some of the things that an individual who partners with your organization might experience?
So a lot, especially post-COVID, a lot of our resources are now online. We have a huge online following. And I mean, you think about the life of a single mom, we're busy. We're trying to keep our kids alive, trying to feed people, trying to like keep the animals alive if you have them. And so we put a lot of resources online. We try to have our website and our social media be a place where mom is like, hey, I'm really struggling right now and I need to go find some inspiration or find some empowerment. For local moms in Southwest Missouri, we have a private group on Facebook, and that group has grown to this amazing community where you have moms that are come on and be like, hey, I'm looking for, like, I need to buy a crib. Where do you guys, is anyone selling a crib?
Right.
To like women just coming on and be like, hey, y'all, can I vent because I'm really struggling right now? And so it's grown into this really beautiful thing where like, I don't necessarily have to go on and do much. The women just take care of each other.
Right.
And
not
so,
having to mediate,
exactly.
But we know how to take care of each other.
Exactly.
Many of us have that nurturing concept.
Exactly. So our virtual spaces have really grown and are just incredible. They just impress me all the time. So that's one of the huge things that we have is that virtual space. And then we're starting to bring back more in-person things. A couple times a month we have a Single Moms Move fitness class. One of our partners is Royal Barbell downtown, and they provide the coaching and everything, and the moms come together for community and just to work out.
Sure.
Because one thing that we've been talking about is like, taking care of yourself is taking care of your kids.
Right.
And so getting them to just move their bodies and learn more about physical fitness and then find that community has been huge.
Well, and also physical fitness is such a good stress reliever, and any single parent or any parent, you don't have to be a single parent.
If you have procreated, you have stress.
For your children to stress you out and for you to need a good workout, like if it's not happening every hour of the day, it's at least happening once a day.
Exactly. And it's kind of cool because some of the older kids will come and they'll work out with their moms, or they even find community. Like my daughter ends up running around the room just playing with the other kids. And I mean, they stay safe, but they find community too. And
absolutely.
So it's for this hour, a couple times a month, the kids are like taken care of and the moms can just focus on moving their bodies and working out. And so that's been really huge.
That's been awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and some of the things I know you've done in the past, and this might be before you came to Springfield, were the large kind of holiday dinner.
Yeah.
That everyone came together and it was fun. We got dressed up and you could take pictures if you wanted.
Yeah.
There were speakers.
Yeah.
And so that was always a great event too, in order to just come together and celebrate the year.
Yeah, I will say that our Valentine's Day banquet is making a comeback in 2022.
Good.
I can't believe that's the year that we're almost at.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes, our Valentine's Day banquet will be making a comeback in 2022. We couldn't have it this year because of COVID, obviously. But it is going to be bigger and better than ever. And yeah, tickets will go on sale soon-ish. And I can't announce the date yet because it's a secret, but it is coming back. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great event. And so if you haven't attended or you're interested in it, really encourage you to look into that. So, as a single mom myself, one of the things was often, like you mentioned, feeling frustration or often feeling the sense of failure. Like, if I had co-parenting, I might have had another opinion to bounce this off of, or I could have passed them off to their father to be like, all right, you deal with them. But, 24/7, they're yours. They're, and so mine was through being a widow, which means I had no other opinion. I think for others, sometimes there is an opinion, which you've now lost control of the collaborative nature of parenting. And so this group really fills that void for someone who maybe doesn't have really great advice from their mother or from, a family member, or even sometimes family members have too much advice.
Exactly.
And being able to have someone else that you can connect with that gets you is so important.
Yep. And one of the things I love is sometimes, so in our group, it's in the local area, one of the things I love is watching some of the moms who are older and their kids are maybe like in their 20s kind of reach out and help the younger moms whose kids may be like in elementary school. And I love watching that exchange happen too. Because it's just really beautiful to watch the community kind of look out for each other. And it's like what you said, a lot of people don't have that family support. Yeah. Or a lot of them, honestly, some of them are trying to break generational poverty, Absolutely. Generational things. And so it's like, this doesn't make sense to go to my parents because I'm trying to, I love them, but they're not going to
different.
Exactly. So that's a really beautiful thing to watch in the group too.
Yeah. And that's a sense, I mean, the idea of community.
Yep.
You know, we've gotten so far away from knowing our neighbor and, you know, mowing each other's lawns or our kids playing together. And so it's so great to see people desire this reconnection and to really look for these social connections that are uplifting, right? It can become toxic really fast to where we have the people in our lives that we get to complain to each other and we go back to that, look at me, I'm this victim of this, tell me how bad it is for me, versus having these groups that, you know, when I'm ready for change and I'm ready to be empowered, I know that when I reach out to these individuals that they're going to like hold me high and they're going to expect a lot out of me. And they're going to walk along with me. And that's so important as a single parent.
Yep. Yeah. And I just love that group. And we have about almost 300 moms in that group right now. And so watching them interact is just really awesome.
So what is the overall like vision of Single Moms Rock?
So Single Moms Rock is interesting because you kind of touched on this earlier. It started, Janelle Reed is the founder, and it started as just this, she had walked through her own journey becoming a single mom, and she was just looking for community. I think they started as a Bible study with a few moms, and then over 9 years, it's grown into this whole organization. And so our vision right now, though, is being a safe space for moms to find community, to find resources, to find empowerment. We walk through a single mom's journey at every step of that journey. Okay. So whether you've just given birth, whether you are going through a nasty divorce, whether you're coming out of an abusive situation, or maybe you've always been a single mom and now your kids are grown, but you never stopped being their mom. Yeah. You know, and so you're in a different part of the journey, but we're here for that community as well.
Right.
So we're just here for a safe place of empowerment and community for single moms.
Well, and in our program, we've even had a number of parents and grandparents, grandparents and great-grandparents who have become all of a sudden parents. And many of them are the grandmother. The grandfather is either passed away or no longer involved in that.
It's another single grandmothering.
Yes. And so it's been great. We've actually, provided them information about Single Moms Rock in order to connect with those resources and just be able to have individuals to reach out to say, it was very different 20 and 40 years ago.
Exactly. And, you're like, now there's internet and all these other things. I don't really know what to do with these kids.
Or how do I monitor them and keep them safe when there's all these other things that you have to think about.
Exactly.
So it's a resource for all ages. Yep. And you had mentioned that before when we were kind of talking about who is this for? Do I have to be a certain type of single mom in order to join this group?
And I think as I've gotten more and more out into the community in Springfield, that's one common misconception that I run into is that moms are like, oh, well, you have to qualify for your income to be a part of this group, or it's only for lower income moms, or you have to be a Christian that's not even one of our parameters. You just have to be a single mom. We don't really care what journey or what part of the journey you're on. We don't care if even if you're separated and you're just trying to figure stuff out and you need community for a moment or whatever. We're here for every part of that journey. And there is no income level to qualify. I talk about this all the time with people all over Springfield. That is a common misconception. We don't care. Because while a mom who may be more financially stable may not have those struggles, you can still have the struggle of loneliness.
Yes.
The struggle of trying to figure everything out on your own.
Well, in an upper income bracket, now all of a sudden also you had a friend group that were the perfect mom. So
exactly.
My husband was affluent and the families that we were engaged were affluent, and they had these perfect lives. They were married, and so then all of a sudden to be the single mom who can no longer play that game, keep that image, it was one of those where you need somewhere that has no boundaries, no qualifications. Like, I just got to show up as I am.
Exactly. And the culture of Springfield, where we live, is very much a married culture.
Yes.
And so when you don't all of a sudden fit into that picture because of whatever situation, it's really hard and it can be devastating. So even if you are, like you said, a little more affluent, it can still be considerably heartbreaking for them. And so, that's something that I want to break that misconception right now. We are for everyone.
Yes, wonderful. Now, speaking for everyone, so let's say that I'm a single mom and I develop a healthy, wonderful relationship and don't identify as a single mom anymore. Are you going to kick me out?
So we don't kick you out. We do have an alumni group.
All right, alumni, I like that.
Yeah, we call it our alumni group, and it's a bunch of ladies in there who wouldn't identify as a single mom anymore for whatever reason. They found a partner, they got married, or whatever.
Sure.
We don't really ask, but we do. We kind of police the group a little bit to just kind of like make sure that in our main group, it's all single moms.
Yeah.
But then we can move you to the alumni group, and then they have community still in there. Some of their friends are in there, and you still find out about what's going on in SMR, so that way if you want to help out in an event or mentor in some way.
Right.
So we don't kick you out. You're still you're always part of our family.
Yeah.
But you won't necessarily be in part of the group that's just single moms.
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine also in developing healthy relationships and feeling, because that's the other thing for a lot of single moms, for many of them, the relationship was toxic or ended poorly for some reason, right? It wasn't this amazing relationship where you're like, well, so thankful for this experience, I'm going to try it out again.
Exactly.
Right? So generally, there's a reason. And so I can imagine having a group of individuals who have developed healthy relationships can provide almost that like mentorship, if you will, of it is possible to find it again. Or, sometimes we put those barriers up. And that it is okay to
open yourself up to whatever it is that life
when you're ready for it.
Exactly, when you're ready for it. Yeah, and that's something that we would love, just kind of as the leaders are dreaming about the future, we would love to bring in some sort of mentorship program or anything like that. So that's kind of in the works.
Yeah. And not everyone has to be in a relationship.
Exactly.
That's important too, that you can learn by developing friendships and social networks in other places, that the relationship doesn't define you. And I think, again, you mentioned, especially in Southwest Missouri, I got married young because that was so ingrained. Like, I was sinning if I, was interested in a boy and we weren't moving towards marriage. And just such an unhealthy way to rip away the empowerment of a young woman.
Exactly.
And for instead to say, you develop who you are first and then develop a relationship second. And instead we force these relationships because that's what's godly versus, man, respect yourself first. Find that empowerment, find out who you are, and then you only let the right person who complements that.
Exactly. And we have quite a few moms who are walking through that empowerment journey now where they did get married younger because it's the culture here, which is something that was wild for me because I'm not from here.
Yeah.
And I'm very much from a more independent culture when it comes to that. When it's like, if you want to get married young, cool. If not, like, do you?
Go to college, go do life.
I'm 31, and if I get married now, I would still be considered back home as getting married young. Yeah. Except here, it's like,
it's like grandma's getting married. Gray hair.
Exactly. I'm an old maid.
Yeah.
But it's cool to watch women who have walked through that journey because they are from here and from this culture and had that difficult kind of upbringing. It's cool to watch them later kind of take over their lives.
Yeah.
I've loved watching some of the single moms become business owners. I've loved watching them find what brings them passion and find empowerment through different situations. I had a mom who just finished going through classes with the Geek Foundation, and she was just so empowered and so proud of her new job and everything, and she was just on our group sharing about it. And we have so many other moms now that are interested in taking classes with them now, and I loved watching that kind of stuff because whatever the situation was, if you're still breathing, you still got life to live.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you may be down for a moment, but you ain't down forever.
Yeah.
You gotta keep moving.
Thank you for listening to Enrichment Today, brought to you by the Drew Lewis Foundation. At the Drew Lewis Foundation, we educate, empower, and support underserved families through personalized programs and coaching to increase the quality of life and build resilient communities. If you like Enrichment Today, make sure to follow Enrichment Today and Drew Lewis Foundation on social media. And now, back to the show.
And it's great to have that, like you said, that team and that support and what it takes to feel like, okay, people have my back. Mm-hmm. And again, we become so isolated, especially older adults and low-income adults. We see that isolation just increase and increase. And so finding all these opportunities, and love sharing in this podcast about all the different ways that we can create community and that we should be creating community. And that begins to address loneliness, mental health, right? All these other things that we just have somehow pushed away and gotten so far away from. It's like, now how do we regain that sense of community out our front door, in our backyard? And now that's literally the internet.
Exactly.
But yeah, just, that's what being empowered is having that team around you with you to celebrate.
I always talk about with the ladies, because we do, so we have our group, but we also have like a video blog series. We call them Zoom and Chats, where I did talk with different moms or people in the community to bring resources, bring awareness. But I always talk to the moms about, like, it's okay to make digital spaces intimate spaces, because of COVID, or because we're all really busy right now trying to raise kids or whatever. We can still make those digital spaces really intimate spaces, and it doesn't have to be surface level or superficial. And so I try to keep encouraging them to
write a sentence that doesn't include abbreviations.
Yeah. Exactly.
You can write an entire sentence.
Exactly.
It is okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I do want to talk about in areas, so you grew up in an area that had greater population, had kind of a more diverse concept of what it means when we've got individuals who need assistance and resources, compared to Springfield, which is little big town.
Yep.
And then, not too far from us is then very rural communities that even lack further. So can you share a little bit about the differences you've seen coming from big city, East Coast, compared to resources that either we do have or that we're lacking in Southwest Missouri?
I think the resources, the comparison between the two is really interesting, because I grew up in Maryland, which is a Democratic state, and I live in Missouri, which is a Republican state, and I can kind of really see the difference there and how things are offered and when and how much the state or the government is involved. And that's been something really personal to me, where I'm like, I never would have thought that. But at the same time, I find that there's a lot of nonprofits in both places, but the nonprofits that exist here tend to be a little more faith-based and have a lot more qualifiers, I feel like, than the nonprofits that I've encountered back home where I'm from in Baltimore. And so that's been something that was a little hard for me to process as someone who has been in the nonprofit world for a while. I'm like, you mean they have to believe something before they can have housing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that for me personally, that was something that was a little hard, and that I noticed was a little bit different. But on the flip side, there are some agencies here, like the Pregnancy Care Center, which I feel like does amazing work, and people don't necessarily think of them or talk about them enough, because I think they're on the South Side. We forget about them sometimes. Right. But I love the work they do, and I can tell you, because I was a young mom in Baltimore City, there's nothing like that there. And so it's interesting to see just the balance. I would never say one is better than the other, but I do think that they just offer different things. Right. The resources back home in Baltimore do cater more towards more diverse populations, because it is an incredibly diverse city. Whereas here, it can be a little more siloed. And I think the community is a lot more affluent, so they don't really understand what is really available or not available. I remember having a conversation with a woman one day, and she asked me, she was like, is SingleMomzRock opening a coffee shop? And I said, no, we're not opening a coffee shop. That is not my dream. But I was like, maybe a women's shelter. And she goes, and she didn't mean any harm, but she was just like, well, we have enough of those. And I was like, no, we don't. No,
yeah,
no,
when
we don't.
500 people are sleeping on the streets at night because we don't have any space for them.
Yeah. So what I think I notice about the community here is a little more lack of awareness. I wonder if that's what is appropriate to call it, because it's a little more siloed.
Sure.
It's a little more siloed.
Yeah.
Here.
So when I was in first grade, I'm going to tell you the story, and it does have a purpose. I was an ostrich in a play. And the whole thing was about the ostrich sticking its head in the sand and missing this whole thing that's going on in front of it. And finally, the ostrich has awareness and kind of saves the day. And so that's kind of how I feel that it's really easy in Springfield to put your head in the sand and or maybe you do write your tithe check and give your money to the church, and you expect then the church to do your work, or you and your kids on Thanksgiving go to the kitchen and donate your time for the one meal, and that's your duty for the year. And people don't realize that Springfield, when we look at adjusted poverty rate for livable wage, I'm not talking about raising the minimum wage, none of that political stuff, and we just look at cost of living in Springfield compared to the average income, 200% of the poverty level is what's recommended, and nearly 50% of Springfield falls at or below that. And so we have so many individuals that on social media or at church or in the pew next to you or at the restaurant next to you are living paycheck to paycheck, but you don't know it.
Exactly.
And so we've got massive amounts of debts and individuals that have, are just so close to that domino effect. And it's just really easy to be like, well, I don't see it, so therefore it doesn't exist.
Exactly. I think one of the things that has been most alarming to me, being someone that's not from here and then having grown up in Maryland, is that, especially being African American, being from the Black community in Baltimore, it's not perfect, but we very much still have a village mentality there, where it's not as much about the individual as it is about the collective. And an example of that is so I have my daughter who's 11, and she's my daughter, but really she belongs to the family. And that's very much how she's treated. And so how we spend our holidays and our time and things like that affect that. Versus here, I find it's very individualistic. So it's very much, well, you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But the thing is that someone who's living in poverty or very close to the poverty line can't budget their way out of poverty.
Their shoes don't fit, so there isn't a bootstrap to pull.
Exactly.
Exactly. And again, those are things that we say, again, that ostrich head in the sand. Those are the things we say when we choose not to have awareness. Because once you have awareness, it's really hard to put your head back in the sand and not feel guilt or something like you have a feeling that you don't know what to do with. And so it's easier just to say, I can't solve the problem, therefore the problem doesn't exist.
Exactly. And if my neighbor's struggling, that's my neighbor's problem, not my problem.
I'm not my brother's keeper.
Right. Where at Single Moms Rock, I try to really bring the culture back to it's an us problem. That if my neighbor is struggling, that affects our community, and my neighbor is a part of my community. And so I'm going to take care of them as someone in my community. If this single mom that I know just lost her husband, and that's why now she's a single mom, and this Christmas could look really hard or really difficult for them, or the next year, then that's an us problem, because she's part of my community, part of my village. And so we need to surround these people in the way that they need to be surrounded. Too.
And there might be a time then when they're able to give back. I love the idea of reciprocity, of I want to put out to my community what I want back from my community. And then also when all members of the community, when we're looking at, these are women that are in our community, they are working, they are on PTAs, they are on boards, they are giving back. And when they're successful, their family's successful, their children are successful, the business that they work for, that they run, is successful. And so when we develop community and we develop empowerment, that lifts everyone in the community. And again, that's just so amazing to see the ripple effect of one person making change and then seeing that in their child, or seeing it in someone else who says, kind of monkey see, monkey do. I want to have that experience too. And so you mentor me just by me watching you succeed.
Yep.
It's awesome to be a part of groups that create that feeling, and then we gravitate towards that, and we want to do better, and we want to be like that community.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So it is awesome what SingleMomzRock is doing. So what are some of the positive results or the skills that you have seen women who are part of this go through? We had talked about empowerment. One of the things that I think I experienced as being a single mom is potentially like resiliency and those sorts. So how are those kind of expressed in individuals, or what have you seen that really just empowers you to keep doing your job every day?
Oh man, single moms have a drive like you will never see anywhere else, because life just kind of keeps coming, keeps throwing it hits, and we're just like, okay, we gotta take them and keep moving. Just take them and keep moving. And so the drive that I have seen in some of these single moms, even like just going, like we have I can think of one mom who's going through like cancer treatments, and just the mental drive and the openness and the love that I see coming from her and what she shares on Facebook, I'm like, that's really awesome. Yeah. And then just genuinely the love that they'll have, because they know what it feels like to be unseen, forgotten, and overlooked. And so a lot of them try really hard, at least in our community, to not have other people feel that way.
Right.
And so there's a real genuineness in the community and in love, and like you said, the resiliency, but at the same time, some of those strengths I feel like can also be some of our weaknesses, because I just think of how strong even I have had to be in my single mom walk. I mean, I was in college when I had my daughter, and so I have to keep going, and so that's one of the reasons that we brought in the fitness classes, because I want the moms to know how to take care of themselves too. Right. Because we do have to keep going. One of the hardest times in our house is when I get sick.
Yes. Who's there to take care of you?
Our world is going to stop spinning this week, And so I want the moms to know that it's okay to breathe. I talk a lot about rest, and it's okay to rest. It's okay to take a deep breath. It's okay to set boundaries and let your no's be no's and your yes be yes, because we have to take care of ourselves, because if we don't, then the weight of our households and our families kind of sits on our shoulders.
Absolutely.
And so I try to be in the work of prevention. And so let's prevent some of the mental breakdowns or the sickness or the stress. I mean, stress just taking over your life can just cause your body to have so many different things going on. And so I encourage the moms to rest for real when it's time to rest. And then let's get out there and kill it, because we're beasts.
That's right. But I think the other thing too is it's okay to ask for help.
That too.
That's so. I mean, we talk about taking care of ourselves.
We did a whole Facebook live chat about asking for help a couple months ago.
Yeah,
it is rough.
What's amazing too is I realize when I do need something and I put it into the social media world, just saying hey, I need a thing, or if I invite my family into this need that I have. It is actually overwhelming in the number of people that are like, oh, here's an opportunity to help you, because you're always giving and doing, and I see that, and thank you for letting me be a part of your life and your world and your drive. And so just being a single mom, you feel like everyone's watching and you have to be perfect and you got to do it right, and you if your kid screwed up, it's all your fault.
Exactly.
And hey, it's okay to just ask for help.
It is I will say personally, I struggle with that concept. And I think too, because some of our moms develop a strength that they have to have. You have to be strong for your kids. You have to be strong, because you can't just wallow in whatever your situation is. You can't just wallow, even though you may feel like it, or you may allow yourself to do it for 24 hours. You can't do that your whole life. So you gotta get yourself together, put your big girl panties on, and get your life together. And so there's a strength that develops there. And so I know for myself that strength is there, and then I can do a lot of things for myself. I mean, just being honest, one of the reasons I bought a pickup truck is because I don't like to ask for help.
I can haul it. Throw it in back.
I can haul my own stuff. I got this.
Yes.
It's I want to reserve the opportunity to ask for help when I when I genuinely need it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that if someone's listening and they're not a single parent and they're wanting to engage the single parent community here a little bit more, is like allow them to tell you how they want help too.
Right.
Because a lot of us are working on that and learning that. But one thing that'll really grind my gears as a single mom is like people offering help that I'm like, but I don't need that help. And then they're like, well, you need to learn how to accept help. I'm like, but I go to CrossFit 5 days a week. I actually can do that. There's other ways, you know?
Right.
So also like, it kind of goes both ways. Like I do encourage single parents to, I know y'all, it's hard, but ask for help. You have to ask for help. Yeah. Because we're a village, we're a community, and we won't ever learn those how to be that village if people aren't willing to be open, but also...
And I love the idea of barter and trade, too.
Right.
So a lot of times in help, it's a one-sided thing. You're going to give me something and I have nothing I can give back.
Exactly.
And so I love the idea of like, okay, especially with like kids. So if you'll take the kids so I can go do this thing, then next week I will give you the same time and, you know, rotate. Or you help me out with this and let me trade in this sense. And so there's ways to do it and not feel like it's out of like vulnerability, because we don't want to feel vulnerable, we don't want to feel incapable.
Exactly.
But it really can be empowering when you find a way, or you find the right individuals because you've made healthy boundaries of who and how you allow people to help. But yeah, finding those ways of reciprocity help make it a little easier to be like, okay, so I can't do this thing by myself.
Yeah.
And like you might be She-Ra and you can lift it, but for the sake of your back,
I probably shouldn't.
Some things have, like, you know, one of my employees was carrying a box upstairs, and on it had 2 people, and it was like, lift properly. And so I was like, Stephanie, look at the box. And she's like, but I can. I was like, but I want to keep you as an employee. So...
You're like, that is a workman's comp situation waiting to happen.
Right. So ask for help. It's fine. Sometimes 2 people can do it.
And also offer help too. So there's this thing of like, I have this thing about asking and offering, because as a single mom, as a single parent, it can feel self-deprecating to always have to ask.
Yes.
And so if people aren't offering, I guarantee this happens in the single mom community all the time. We're going to see many people don't care. And so having our neighbors in our village offer that help also makes the ask a little easier as well. Yeah. And I've seen that even happen with different moms that I interact with here, and we're out. They're like, do you need me to pick up Cam? Like, do you need me? That's my daughter. I'm like, absolutely. And since they already offered that help, if I needed to ask, it makes it a little easier because they've shown me that they're willing to be a part of my world.
Right. And I might not need it today, but hey, I know next week if this would work for you.
Exactly. So that thing of like asking and offering. So if you're if you're thinking of someone right now and you're like, why doesn't that person ever ask me for help? I'm so willing to help. Why don't you maybe try offering it?
Right.
That'd be huge.
And offering it on their terms too.
Exactly.
You know, that's important too. If I'm going to offer it, but only like this, and don't be offended if the way that you're offering it doesn't work for them. There was one time where someone was like helping us out, and it was, okay, we've got this window, and if you really want to bring dinner to us, it's got to be in this window because then we've got to be out the door. And for whatever reason, in their life, I'm sure there was chaos, and they were held up, and so it was like, okay, now we don't have dinner, and we've got to be out the door, so just leave the casserole at the front door, and like now I've got to like give the kids food we can eat in the car to get out the door. Yeah. And so it was those times where I'm like, oh, it's just easier to do it on my own than rely on someone else. And so I, quit relying. And then I was like, wait, I can't do this on my own. Like I gotta get this, back to letting people be a part of this story. So yeah, it's always a balance.
It's a balance, and it's tough. Single parent, I'm sure we struggle.
Yes.
Struggle, especially I think in today's society where it's that whole super mom thing too, which is I think incredibly damaging. But,
yeah. So, well, I want to wrap up today. I'm giving you opportunity to share anything about Single Moms Rock. Most importantly, like you said, how can people get involved?
So if you are a single mom, or you love a single mom, or a single mom, I highly recommend you like our Facebook page. It's where a lot of our information is posted.
Now, it's spelled unique. There's a Z in there, so help us find you.
It is. So it's Single Moms Rock is all one word. And so it's single, and then it's capital MOMZ, and then rock.
Yes.
But it's all one word
Yes.
on Facebook. But I highly recommend following us on Facebook or on Instagram. We post a lot of community resources on there, a lot of inspirational stuff. So even if you're like, I'm not a single mom, but I want to be connected with this group, that's the way to connect with us.
Or maybe you were a single mom before, like we had talked about, and now you are in a great stable place. Maybe your kid, like I'm an empty nester, and I know that there's a single mom, down the street who maybe needs some just babysitting in the sense of, if you want to go to the grocery store without the children,
oh my goodness,
just like let me give you an hour for you to run down the street. Like I'll come up and whatever, sit and watch
Kids
TV or play in the backyard, right?
So drive you crazy. But if you are a single mom in Southwest Missouri, don't even have to be in Springfield, just in Southwest Missouri. I highly recommend you look up our group. It's Single Moms for Victory, and then that's Single Moms is all one word with the Z. That's our branding. But Single Moms for Victory, you do have to be approved to be a part of the group. And if you can't find it, you can always message us through our Facebook page, and we'll hook you up with the group. And we'll get your email and make sure that you get all updated, especially with next year coming and the banquet coming. This is definitely a time to
that event is
involved.
Great. So if you're interested at all, make sure that you reach out and connect, because not only is it just a fun event of women who are getting together for a dinner, there is an amazing swag bag.
Yes, we give away a lot of prizes.
Yes.
And we have childcare.
Oh, that's the other important piece.
Yes, and we're working on getting dresses donated for all the moms.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and I will say that
that might be a great way for our listeners to give back. So the event, some women are dressed up. It's, they might even wear a formal dress.
It is a formal affair. Yeah.
And I came not so formal only because I choose to not dress formally as often as possible.
That's fine.
That's fine. I wore my Sunday best, if you will.
That's okay.
So you don't have to have a formal dress. I don't want anyone to be like, I do COVID, right? I am not putting on those shoes. I've gone a year and a half without wearing heels, and I think I can go a lifetime now without them.
But maybe because of COVID, they're also like, look, I have not been on the town in a minute. This is your night on the town. And I will say another way for people to get involved if they're watching is that we are currently looking for sponsors for the swag bags.
Awesome.
So if someone's watching and they own a business or whatever, and you're like, I would love to love on 100 single moms for Valentine's Day, which the reason we do it for Valentine's Day is because that's a really lonely time. It's a really lonely time for anyone to be single. We want these moms to feel loved, seen, and appreciated. And so if you would like to sponsor a table or even help with the planning at all, it's all in the big, huge planning stages right now.
Yeah,
and so I
donate a dress, those types of
anything,
things.
Yeah.
We can even, Drew Lewis Foundation can be a collection site. We have a number of dresses that have been donated. So we'll connect after this. And if you can't find Single Moms Rock, you know how to find us at Drew Lewis Foundation. Connect, and we'll help get you connected. If you want to donate your time, and again, can't find them through resources, which we'll share in the podcast as well, then reach out to us and we'll get you there.
Sounds great.
Awesome. We can't wait for the event. I'm still a single mom, so I get to go. Even though I'm an empty nester, I am actually a grandma from, let me clarify that. Hold up. I'm not ready to be a real grandma, but I am a pup grandma.
Hey, that counts.
He is 5 months old. He's adorable. His name is Remy, and he's been with me for 4 days. And I send my daughter cute little pictures and projects that I've done with the dog. And I'm terribly embarrassed, but wonderfully happy to do it.
That counts. I just bought my daughter and I bought my mom for Mother's Day this year, a bumper sticker for her car that says, I love my grand dog.
Yes. Yeah. So it's you're always a parent even when they've moved out.
Yes,
and
especially
never
nowadays. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening in, and we look forward to having you join us for our next podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Enrichment Today podcast. If you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And visit our websites enrichmenttoday.org and drewlewis.org. Until next time, remember to break some crayons.